Hi, very glad to see you on the channel. Before you start listening to the story, write in the comments whether you like the voice on the video. I've always believed that history holds the answers to most of life's problems. You look back far enough, and you'll see patterns, cycles of mistakes, betrayals, victories, and losses. People don't change much, not at their core. That's probably why I became a high school history teacher. There's something satisfying about showing students the past and watching them connect the dots to their own lives. While you're here, leave a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to know. Caroline used to say she loved that about me, how I could take a random event from 100 years ago and make it feel like it mattered today. She said I had a presence, that I made people listen without trying too hard. That was a long time ago. Lately, I get the feeling she's only half listening when I talk. Like I'm just background noise, a song she's heard too many times to care about the lyrics anymore. We've been together for 8 years, married for 6. We met back in college, State University, my senior year, her sophomore year. She was struggling with an art history elective, and one of my buddies asked if I could help her out. She had this nervous energy about her, always doodling in the margins of her notebook, chewing on the ends of her pens. The first time we met at the campus library, she blurted out, "I hate this class, but I need a C to keep my scholarship, so if you can help me survive it, I'll owe you forever." I smirked and told her I'd hold her to that. 2 years later, she stood in front of me in her grandmother's backyard, barefoot on the grass, slipping a ring onto my finger. It was a small wedding, just family and a few close friends. We didn't need anything grand. We just needed each other. At least, that's what I thought at the time. We settled into a good life after college. Bought a house in a nice, quiet neighborhood where people wave when they pass but don't pry into your business. I landed a steady teaching job, and she started working as a freelance graphic designer. She liked the flexibility, and I liked that she was doing something creative. Back then, I thought we were happy. Looking back, I can pinpoint when things started to shift. It wasn't overnight. It wasn't dramatic. Caroline didn't slam doors or pick fights. She just started, drifting. It was small things at first, checking her phone more often, smiling at messages she didn't bother to share. She started going to the gym regularly, which I supported. But then she started dressing up for it. Not just leggings and a hoodie. I mean full hair and makeup, even perfume. Who the hell puts on perfume for a workout? The other day, she came home late and made some excuse about getting caught up at the cafe next to the gym. I nodded and said nothing. I've always been the steady one, the calm one. But that doesn't mean I'm blind. Caroline thinks she's good at keeping secrets. She isn't. I see the way her phone screen tilts away when I walk into the room. I hear the shift in her tone when she answers certain calls. It's the same way my students sound when they're lying about why they didn't turn in their assignments. I could call her out right now, ask her straight up who she's been talking to, who she's dressing up for. But I won't. Not yet. Because history teaches patience. When a city is under siege, the wise general doesn't launch a reckless attack. He watches. He waits. He lets the enemy get comfortable, believing they're safe. And when the time is right, when the cracks start to show, that's when he strikes. So for now, I'll let Caroline think she's getting away with it. For now. The morning starts like any other, quiet, predictable. I wake up first, same as always, shower, get dressed, and head downstairs to start the coffee. The house is still, aside from the soft hum of the refrigerator and the occasional rustling of Pepper shifting in his bed by the back door. Caroline comes down 20 minutes later, wrapped in her robe, hair still damp from the shower. She barely looks up from her phone as she slides into her seat at the kitchen table. I set a mug of coffee in front of her, watching as she absently stirs in cream and sugar, her eyes never leaving the screen. "Anything interesting?" I ask, keeping my voice neutral. She hums vaguely, scrolling. I take a sip of coffee, letting the silence stretch between us. Had a kid in class try to convince me that Napoleon was actually 5 feet tall because he read it online. Spent half the period explaining that French measurements were different back then. I chuckle, expecting at least a smile. Nothing. Caroline absently rubs her thumb over the side of her phone, still scrolling. I lean back in my chair. You hearing me? She blinks, finally glancing up. What? Never mind. She yawns, stretching like she didn't just tune me out completely. I was up late finishing a project, she says, as if that explains everything. Lot of work deadlines this week. Right. Work deadlines. The same excuse she used the last 3 nights. Pepper trots over, tail wagging, his nails clicking on the tile. He nudges Caroline's knee with his snout, looking up at her expectantly. Most mornings, she scratches his ears without thinking. Today, she barely acknowledges him. Something shifts in the air, something I can't quite put a name to yet. It is not just distraction. It is a withdrawal, slow and deliberate, like a door closing an inch at a time. She gulps down the last of her coffee and gets up, already tapping away on her phone again. I've got to run some errands before work. See you later. She leaves her cup in the sink, grabs her bag, and is out the door before I can say another word. That night, I hear her laughter before I see her. It is almost midnight. The house is dark except for the glow spilling from the office down the hall. Caroline's laptop screen flickers, casting long shadows against the walls. I stop in the doorway. She is curled up in her chair, typing quickly, her lips curled in a private smile. I can see the reflection of her screen in her glasses, messages popping up in a chat window. That name again. I noticed it 2 days ago when I walked past, a message that disappeared before I could read it. At the time, I told myself it was nothing. Maybe a client. Maybe a friend. Maybe I am imagining things. But I am not. She does not hear me approach, too caught up in whatever conversation she is having. Her fingers hover over the keyboard for a moment, hesitating, then she deletes whatever she was about to type and starts over. That hesitation tells me everything. I clear my throat. She jumps, slamming the laptop shut. Jesus, Aaron, she breathes, pressing a hand to her chest. You scared me. Didn't mean to. I lean against the doorframe, arms crossed. You coming to bed anytime soon? She glances at her watch. I just need to finish this last edit. Won't be long. I don't move. Her fingers tap against the lid of her laptop. You're staring. You used to work in the afternoons. Now it's always late at night. She shrugs. I work better at night. Fewer distractions. I nod slowly. Who's M? Something flickers across her face, quick, almost imperceptible. Then she laughs lightly. Just a client. I let that sit between us. I do not push, not yet. All right, I say finally, turning away. Don't stay up too late. The next evening, I try something different. I wait until dinner, pasta, red sauce, garlic bread, to bring it up. You and I haven't gone anywhere in a while, I say casually, twirling spaghetti onto my fork. We should take a weekend trip. Maybe that cabin upstate. Get out of here for a bit. Caroline barely looks up from her plate. I've got too much going on. You work from home. You can take the time. Not right now. You sure? She sighs, finally meeting my gaze. Aaron, I just have a lot of commitments. It's not a good time. That word again. Commitments. I set my fork down. What's really going on, Caroline? She blinks. What? You're different. Distant. You're always on your phone, always working late, always too busy for something as simple as a weekend away. She scoffs. I don't know what you want me to say. Work has been stressful, I have deadlines, and I am tired. You're acting like I am doing something wrong just because I am busy. I hold her gaze. I didn't say that. She pushes her chair back abruptly, picking up her plate. I don't want to fight about this. She dumps her plate in the sink, not bothering to rinse it, and walks out of the kitchen. I stay at the table, watching her go. I have seen this pattern before. Not in my marriage, but in history. The way people shift when they are hiding something. The way they deflect. The way they push away before they leave for good. She thinks she is being careful. She thinks I am too trusting, too slow to see it. It is late, past midnight. The kind of late where the world is quiet and honest, where the mask people wear during the day slips just enough to show the truth underneath. Caroline stands in the doorway of our bedroom, arms crossed, her silhouette lit by the dim glow from the hallway. She is awake when she should not be. That alone tells me something is coming. Aaron, we need to talk. I bookmarked the page of the novel I was reading and set it aside. Go ahead. She hesitates, just for a second. That flicker of doubt is almost enough to betray her, but she pushes past it. I've been thinking a lot about us lately, she says, stepping inside. About marriage. About how people evolve over time. That is the kind of opening that never leads anywhere good. I say nothing, waiting. She sits on the edge of the bed, her fingers playing with the hem of her shirt. I love you, you know that, right? Sure. She lets out a breath, then, with rehearsed confidence, says, I think we should consider an open marriage. The words land between us like a dropped glass, shattering everything. I stare at her. Not in shock, not in anger. Just watching. Calculating. She is expecting outrage. That much is obvious. Her shoulders are stiff, her body tensed like she is bracing for a fight. She has already prepared her counterarguments, lined them up in her head, ready to deflect, ready to paint me as unreasonable. Explain, I say. She blinks, caught off guard. What? You brought it up. Walk me through your thinking. She was not prepared for this. She straightens, rolling her shoulders back. I read about it a lot lately. More and more couples are doing it. It strengthens marriages. Reignites passion. It helps people grow as individuals. I let her words sit between us for a moment before tilting my head. That is interesting. Her fingers tighten on the bedsheet. You aren't mad. Should I be? I don't know. I just thought, she shakes her head quickly. Never mind. Look, I love you, and this has nothing to do with not being happy. I just think, it could be good for us. For a woman who considers herself a designer, her attempt at crafting this lie is pitiful. She does not want an open marriage. She wants permission. She wants a clean slate, to erase the guilt before I even find out what she has done. The timing is too perfect. The distance, the late nights, the secrecy, it all makes sense now. Someone is already in the picture, standing just beyond the doorframe of our marriage, waiting for an invitation inside. I glance at the clock. It is late. This is a conversation for another time. She swallows hard. So, you're not saying no. I hold her gaze. I am saying I want to give this the thought it deserves. She does not know what to do with that answer. She was expecting a battle, an argument that would end with me storming out or raising my voice. She wanted to be the reasonable one, the woman with progressive ideas, while I played the stubborn, outdated husband who refused to see the brilliance of her suggestion. Instead, I handed her patience. Instead, I watched her sweat. I reach for the lamp beside me and switch it off. We'll talk more tomorrow. Caroline hesitates, but eventually nods. Okay. She climbs into bed, but she does not face me. She turns away, curling up, pretending to sleep while her mind races. She thought she had control of this moment. She thought she had already won. But she does not realize something. She just made a mistake. The envelope arrives in the mail on a Wednesday. A thick, cream-colored invitation with my name embossed in blue ink. State University, Class of 2014 10-year reunion. I stand at the kitchen counter, turning the invitation over in my hands. A decade. That is how long it has been since I walked across that stage, shaking hands with professors who barely remembered my name, stepping into the real world with the kind of optimism only a 22-year-old can afford. College reunion. Caroline's voice drifts from the living room. She is stretched out on the couch, scrolling through her phone, pretending to be mildly interested. Next month, I say, skimming the details. Looks like a full weekend. Friday night cocktail hour, Saturday tailgate, banquet, the whole deal. She does not look up. You going? I think so. Caroline hums in acknowledgement, still staring at her screen. Have fun. I'll hold down the fort. She does not ask if I want her to come. She does not pretend to consider it. The answer is already there, she has no interest. I slip the invitation onto the counter and lean against the edge, watching her. The glow of her phone illuminates her face, a small, secretive smile tugging at her lips. It is not a smile for me. I have seen this before, countless times in my students when they are texting under the desk, convinced I cannot see them. That small, focused expression, that tiny flicker of amusement they try to suppress. She does not even bother to hide it now. She blinks, finally meeting my gaze. What? Who is M? The reaction is quick, but not quick enough. A flash of panic before she masks it. Oh. Just a client. I told you that. Right. I nod slowly. You should be careful. You spend a lot of late nights talking to this client. Someone might get the wrong idea. Her jaw tightens. What are you implying? I'm not implying anything, I say evenly. Just making an observation. She sits up straighter. If you don't trust me, just say it. I think trust is built on transparency. She exhales sharply, shaking her head. This again. Aaron, we already talked about this. If we had an open marriage, this wouldn't even be a problem. You're making this harder than it needs to be. There it is. The push. She wants me to be the one to shut it down. She wants me to reject the idea so she can say she tried to be honest. That she wanted to do this the right way, but I just wasn't open-minded enough. I do not give her what she wants. Like I said, it is late. I push off the counter. I'm going to bed. Caroline does not follow me. I hear the soft buzz of another message as I walk away. The reunion has been in the back of my mind all week. I have not thought about State U in years. Not really. I still keep in touch with a few guys from my program, but for the most part, college feels like another life. A version of me that existed before bills and responsibilities. Before marriage. But when I finally confirm my attendance and start looking through the event page, a familiar name jumps out at me. Natalie Becker. I click on the profile, and there she is. Same bright smile, same sharp eyes. A little older, sure, but still unmistakably her. It has been a long time since I let myself think about Natalie. We met in my junior year. She was in my history electives, always sitting 2 rows ahead, always raising her hand. She had opinions, strong ones. She never backed down from an argument, never let a debate slide without making her point. We spent hours studying together, both pretending it was about school when it never really was. She would nudge me under the table when I made her laugh, roll her eyes when I played devil's advocate just to get a reaction. For a while, it was something real. Then Caroline happened. Back then, it was easy to explain. Natalie and I never officially dated. We hovered in that space between friendship and something more, but I never pushed, and neither did she. Caroline, on the other hand, knew exactly what she wanted. She walked into my life like she belonged there, and before I knew it, everything else faded. I never looked back. Never questioned if I had made the right choice. Until now. I closed the laptop, staring at the blank wall in front of me. Caroline has been pushing for distance, slowly, deliberately. She wants an open marriage. She wants freedom. Maybe it is time I take some for myself. The next morning, I set my travel plans. Caroline barely looks up from her laptop as I confirm my flights. So, you're really going? Yeah. Hope you have fun reliving your glory days, she says, smirking. Yeah, I say again, watching her. I just might. She does not hear the edge in my voice. Or maybe she does, but she is too busy planning whatever she thinks she is getting away with to care. What she does not realize, what she will never see coming, is that I am done playing blind. She thinks she is pulling the strings. She has no idea she is about to get tangled in them. State University looks smaller than I remember. Walking through campus again, I see the same red brick buildings, the same stone pathways winding between old oaks, but everything feels condensed. Maybe it is because I have spent the last decade standing at the front of a classroom instead of rushing between them. Maybe time just has a way of shrinking the places that once felt too big to contain us. The main courtyard is already filling with returning alumni, voices overlapping in a steady hum of conversation. I recognize a few faces, some I liked, some I tolerated. Everyone looks older but not necessarily wiser. I make my way toward the registration table, picking up my name tag. Aaron Carter, class of 2014. Man, Carter, is that you? I turn to see Greg Dawson, a guy I shared a few history classes with. He looks the same, louder than necessary, still wearing polos 2 sizes too tight. Been a while, I say, shaking his hand. Yeah. What's it been, 10 years? You still teaching? Yep. High school history. He grins. Knew you'd end up corrupting young minds. You coming to the cocktail hour later? Thinking about it. You should. Everyone's here. Even Natalie. The name lands like a strike of flint against steel. I keep my face neutral. Yeah. Greg nods. Saw her earlier. Looks good. Still sharp as ever, too. She asked if you were coming. Interesting. Greg slaps my shoulder before disappearing into the crowd, leaving me standing there, the weight of memory pressing in. I move through campus, passing old classrooms, familiar hallways. I remember late nights in the library, Caroline sitting across from me, tapping her pencil against the table as I explained Renaissance art. She was impatient, always wanting to rush through things. Back then, I liked that about her. She was decisive. When she wanted something, she went after it. Now, I wonder if I mistook impatience for passion. By the time I make it to the cocktail hour, the bar is already surrounded. Alumni stand in small clusters, glasses in hand, picking up old conversations as if a decade had not passed. Then I see her. Natalie Becker. She is standing near the terrace, laughing at something one of our former classmates said. Her hair is shorter than it was in college, but her presence is the same, calm, confident. She glances around, and the moment her eyes meet mine, something shifts. Her smile falters, just for a second, before she recovers. I walk over, keeping my pace steady. Aaron Carter, she says, tilting her head. They let just anyone back in here, huh? I smirk. Clearly. I saw Greg earlier. If they let him in, there are no standards. She laughs, a real one, the kind that comes from somewhere deeper than politeness. It's good to see you. You too. We slip into easy conversation, catching up on the past decade. She tells me she has been living a few hours away, working as a museum curator. She recently got out of a long relationship, and from the way she says it, I can tell it was not a good one. And you? She asks. You're still teaching? Yeah. History. Suburbs. Married. She nods slowly. Caroline, right? That's right. You two always seemed solid. I let that comment sit there for a moment before replying, people change. She studies me, as if weighing whether or not to press further. You look good, Aaron, she says eventually. Different, but good. I chuckle. That sounds like a polite way of saying I look older. She grins. We all do. The evening moves on, but we stay near each other, the conversation pulling us back into a rhythm that should have felt distant but somehow doesn't. By the time the crowd starts to thin, I glance at my watch. Midnight. Time flies, Natalie says. It does. There is a hesitation in her stance, a flicker of something unspoken. Then she exhales sharply and says, I'm sorry if this is too forward, but I always wondered what might have happened if we stayed together. The words are soft, but they hit hard. A decade collapses in on itself, every what-if rushing to the surface. For the first time in a long time, I let myself imagine a different path. One where I am not walking on eggshells in my own home. One where I do not have to second-guess every conversation, every late-night phone call, every carefully placed excuse. One where Caroline is not rewriting the rules of our marriage to fit her own agenda. I do not respond immediately. I just hold Natalie's gaze, knowing that whatever I say next will mean something. And for the first time in a long time, I wanted to. The drive home from the reunion is long and quiet, the kind of silence that lets thoughts settle where they do not belong. The highway stretches ahead, endless, the rhythm of the road steady beneath me. Natalie's words still linger. I always wondered what might have happened if we stayed together. She had not said it with regret, just quiet curiosity. A door left slightly open, a path not taken. I tighten my grip on the wheel. For years, I have let things slide. I have been patient, steady. I have made excuses for Caroline's distance, told myself marriage has its phases. But standing there with Natalie, talking about the past, I could not ignore the weight of my own choices. Caroline did not propose an open marriage, she maneuvered it. She planted the idea like a carefully placed seed, hoping I would react exactly as she wanted. She wanted resistance. She wanted a reason to cast herself as the progressive wife trapped with a rigid husband. And now, I am starting to see it for what it really is. This is not about growth or passion. This is about permission. I switch lanes, the city lights growing closer. I should be angry. Maybe I am. But anger is reckless. It makes people act too soon, speak too freely. I do not want anger. I want control. Caroline thinks she is leading the game. She does not realize I just picked up the pieces. An hour later, I pull into the driveway. The house is dark except for the faint glow from the office window. She is still awake. I take my time stepping inside, setting my bag by the door. The air smells like lavender candles and something faintly artificial, her usual attempt to cover up reality with aesthetics. She does not look up when I walk in, just keeps typing on her laptop, a half-empty glass of wine beside her. Hey, she says casually, as if I just came back from a grocery run instead of a weekend away. Hey. I step into the kitchen, pouring myself a glass of water. How was your weekend? Busy. Busy. She says it without hesitation, without effort. The way someone does when the truth would take more work to explain. I take a slow sip of water, watching her. Thinking about what you said, I say after a moment. She finally looks up. What? The open marriage thing. I keep my voice level, my face unreadable. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's exactly what we need. The glass stops halfway to her lips. She covers it quickly, but I see it, that moment of hesitation, the flicker of panic she was not prepared for. She was expecting a fight, a firm no that would let her twist the narrative in her favor. This was not part of her plan. You're serious? She asks carefully. I nod, setting my glass down. Yeah. You made some good points. It could bring excitement back. Strengthen things. Help us grow. The words taste like poison, but I say them anyway. She blinks, calculating. I didn't think you'd actually consider it. Why not? I don't know. I just thought you were more traditional. People evolve, I say, echoing her own words back at her. She exhales, nodding slowly, as if convincing herself this is good. This is what she wanted. I mean, we'd have to set rules, obviously. Of course. She fidgets with the stem of her wine glass. No secrets. Full honesty. If either of us feels uncomfortable, we stop. I almost laugh. No secrets. She is drowning in them. I step closer, letting the silence stretch between us. Is there already someone you have in mind? She flinches, just barely. Aaron, it's okay if you do, I interrupt, my voice smooth. This is about being open, right? She searches my face, trying to read what I am thinking. Yeah, she says finally, forcing a smile. Right. Meanwhile, somewhere across town, M is getting impatient. He texts Caroline, 3 words that carry weight, we need to talk. She stares at her screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard. He is pushing now. He does not like hiding, does not like being kept in the shadows while she plays the devoted wife at home. Caroline bites her lip, debating what to say. She types, then erases, then types again. Not tonight. Aaron's back. We'll talk soon. She hits send, staring at the message like it might rewrite itself. M replies almost immediately. You keep stalling. She exhales sharply, locking her phone. She will handle this later. For now, she needs to deal with the fact that her husband, the man she thought she had backed into a corner, just agreed to something he was never supposed to. And deep down, she knows, something is wrong. She just has no idea how much. Caroline thinks she is untouchable. Ever since I agreed to her open marriage idea, she has been moving differently, bolder, more reckless. She stays out later, lingers on phone calls in the other room, and dresses with just a little more effort when she goes to the gym. Last week, she brought up a work trip. Just a couple of nights, she had said over dinner, barely looking up from her plate. I need to meet with a client out of state. She was testing me. I stabbed my fork into my steak, chewed thoughtfully, then wiped my mouth before speaking. Want me to drive you to the airport? For the first time in a long time, she hesitated. You don't have to, she said too quickly. It's early. I'll just take a cab. I took a sip of my drink, watching her squirm under the weight of my silence. I don't mind. Her fingers tensed around her knife. Aaron, really? It's fine. I nodded, leaning back in my chair. All right. That was 3 days ago. Now, as I sit alone in the living room, I glance at the clock. Caroline's flight landed 2 hours ago, but she hasn't called. No check-in, no message. I wonder what lie she will tell when she walks through that door. I also wonder if she realizes she is not the only one taking advantage of this arrangement. I met Natalie for dinner last night. I had chosen a small, quiet place on the other side of the city, somewhere Caroline would never think to go. When Natalie walked in, I was reminded of why I had once been drawn to her. She carried herself with a calm confidence, her eyes sharp as they scanned the restaurant before landing on me. She smiled, warm, genuine. "I have to admit," she said as she sat down, "I was surprised when you reached out." "Good surprise or bad?" She tilted her head. "I'll let you know after dinner." The conversation flowed easily, like no time had passed at all. We talked about college, about old friends, about how life had taken us down roads we never expected. At one point, she set her wine glass down and studied me. "You don't seem happy, Aaron." I let the question linger before responding. "What makes you say that?" She gave a knowing smile. "I remember how you used to be. Back then, when we studied together, you had this way of lighting up when you talked about history. You were steady. Certain. Now, it feels like you're carrying something." I took a slow breath. "Maybe I am." She did not press. She just nodded, accepting the answer without demanding more. By the time dinner was over, neither of us was in a hurry to leave. We walked outside, the night air cool against our skin. She turned to me, hesitant, then said softly, "I meant what I said at the reunion. I used to wonder about us." I watched her for a moment before speaking. "Still wondering?" She smiled. "Maybe." She leaned in first. It was not rushed, not desperate. Just a simple, quiet kiss, one that did not ask for permission but did not demand more than I was willing to give. For the first time in a long time, something in my chest loosened. Maybe I had been holding my breath for too long. Caroline walks through the door just after noon. She is wearing a beige trench coat, sunglasses perched on her head, her rolling suitcase trailing behind her. She forces a casual smile, but there is something tight around the edges. "Hey," she says, setting her bag down. "You're home early." I glance up from my laptop, my expression unreadable. "Didn't go anywhere." She studies me, as if trying to figure out if I am telling the truth. "You hungry?" I ask. "There's food in the fridge." "No, I grabbed something at the airport." "Right. How was the trip?" She hesitates, just for a second. "Good. Productive." I nod. "Glad to hear it." She lingers in the doorway, waiting for me to push, to interrogate. But I don't. I let the silence stretch, let the weight of it settle between us. Finally, she mutters something about unpacking and disappears into the bedroom. I hear the sound of her suitcase zipping open, the rustle of clothes being put away. Then, a pause. Her voice drifts from down the hall, tight and careful. "Aaron?" I take my time standing up, making my way toward the room. She is staring at my laptop screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. The message is still open. "Thanks for tonight, Aaron. Miss you already." Natalie. She turns to me, her face unreadable. I meet her gaze, calm and steady. "You look surprised," I say. She opens her mouth, then closes it. This is the moment she realizes something. She is not the only one playing this game. Caroline stares at the message on my laptop, the weight of it settling over her like a storm cloud. Her fingers twitch at her sides, her jaw tightening. She has spent months playing her game in the shadows, convinced I was too blind to see. But now, confronted with proof that I have stepped outside the lines she so carefully crafted, she does not know what to do. "You're cheating," she finally spits out, her voice sharp. I let the words hang in the air before answering. "No." I closed the laptop slowly. "I followed the rules." Her eyes flash. This is not what we agreed on." I arch a brow. "No. Because I remember you being the one who suggested an open marriage." I remember you saying it would help us grow. Or did you think you were the only one allowed to explore? Her hands ball into fists. It was just a concept. A conversation. I didn't think you'd actually, right, I interrupt. You didn't think. Because you weren't looking for something mutual. You wanted permission. You wanted to clear your conscience before I caught you in a lie. She flinches but recovers quickly. This isn't about me. It's about you. You've been sneaking around behind my back, I laugh, low and controlled. Behind your back. I step closer, lowering my voice. That's rich, Caroline. Because I know about M. The color drains from her face. The shift is instant. One moment, she is seething, trying to claw her way to the moral high ground. The next, she is frozen, scrambling to find an escape route. I take my time, letting her squirm. You left enough breadcrumbs, I say, watching her carefully. A name flashing on your screen. Late night calls. Gym trips that had nothing to do with fitness. You got sloppy. Her lips part, searching for a defense, but there is nothing left to hide behind. I continue, my voice calm. You thought you could manage this. That you could rewrite the rules and I'd just go along with it. But here's the thing, Caroline. I stopped playing dumb a long time ago. She shakes her head, forcing out a nervous laugh. It wasn't what you think. It just happened. Did it? I tilt my head. Because I remember the exact day you sat across from me and suggested opening our marriage. You weren't testing an idea. You were covering your tracks. This wasn't an accident. You planned this. She steps back, running a hand through her hair. Aaron, please, the knock at the door cuts her off. She stiffens. I do not move. Another knock. Slowly, I turn and walk toward the front door, not bothering to look back at her. When I open it, Natalie steps inside, her expression unreadable. Caroline blinks, thrown completely off balance. What is this? Natalie ignores her, walking forward with measured steps. She pulls something from her bag and tosses it onto the kitchen counter. A manila envelope. Go ahead, Natalie says, arms crossed. Open it. Caroline's gaze flickers between us before she hesitantly reaches for the envelope. She pulls out a set of glossy photos, her hands trembling as she flips through them. Her and them, locked in an embrace outside the gym. Another of them slipping into a car together. One of them kissing in a parking lot. A visible tremor runs through her as she grips the photos tighter. Natalie speaks first. Recognize yourself? Caroline's breath comes in short, uneven bursts. Where did you get these? I lean against the counter, arms crossed. Doesn't matter. Her head snaps toward me, eyes wide. You planned this. I nod. You thought you were ahead of me. Thought you could manipulate the situation to fit whatever story made you feel better about what you were doing. But I had a different plan. She stares at me, realization hitting her like a freight train. You used her to spy on me. Natalie smirks. Not spy. Just confirm. Caroline turns to me, voice shaking. I can fix this. We can fix this. I exhale, shaking my head. There's nothing left to fix. Her body tenses, panic creeping in now. Please, Aaron. I made a mistake. No, Caroline. I take a step closer, my voice steady, absolute. You made a choice. She looks down at the photos again, her fingers tightening around them like she can somehow change what is in front of her. You need to leave, I say. She looks up sharply. What? You heard me. You wanted a new life. You wanted freedom. I nod toward the door. Go enjoy it. She opens her mouth to argue, to plead, but there is nothing left to say. I step back, giving her space to realize that this is real. That the game she thought she was winning is over. She has already lost. Thank you for listening to the end. I hope you enjoyed it very much. Don't forget to give a like, and tell us in the comments what you would do in such a situation.